Hello and welcome back. This is Ethan7878, and in today's video we are going to be looking at the Tier 9 Soviet cruiser, the Dmitri Donskoi, which no one knows how to pronounce, but we're going to go with that anyway. So the map is Warrior's Path, and it is a Tier 10 game, so Tier 9 cruiser is not too far out of place. And I've spawned over here at the sea cap, and in this case, well, in this battle I'm going to show you how to play it and how not to play this ship. And here's how not to play it. Don't try and get too close to caps. Sure, you should be getting near enough to use your radar and spot enemy destroyers. You do have 11.7 kilometers of range on your radar, which is very good. But that's all you need. You probably shouldn't try to get into the cap, just to farm a little bit more XP. And you'll see why in just a moment here. We got 3 battleships pushing up. And I didn't exactly realize how close they were until I got spotted and they all started shooting at me. And if you played the Dmitri Donskoi, you know that its armor is very, very thin, and there goes 30,000 health in the first few seconds of the game. I do have the heal though. That's a nice thing about being Tier 9, is that you can actually heal some of the damage back. And since I don't think I actually got Citadel there, it was just a bunch of high damage penetrations, I can heal about half of that damage back up. However, again, the armor is very, very thin, very weak, and pretty much any shell that does hit you is going to do damage. That's something you should always just assume when you're playing this ship. And now I'm going to show how you should be playing this ship. Gaining some range, and just spamming high explosive on enemy battleships. This ship is excellent at kiting, especially with the 18-kilometer range. And that's even without the range mod. If you put the range mod on, you could probably hit 20 or 21 kilometers. In this case, I'm running the reload mod, which cuts down my reload from 12 to about 10.8 seconds. Now this curve first, unfortunately I can't set any more fires on him than I only have the first one that I did set on him. And this Izumo is going to continue firing at me for the first little while in this game. And he is causing some significant damage. I'm down to 6,000 health. And, you know, when 3 enemy battleships are shooting at you, you really want to be a little further away than 16 kilometers. And here goes the Montana and the Izumo again. And you'll see here that I'm going to start turning away. Any shell that does hit you is likely going to do damage, but what you can do to mitigate damage is have as few shells as possible hit you. And that's just by turning and wiggling and, again, gaining range. Now, if you're looking at the bottom left, you'll see that I'm also playing with my speed. And this is for 2 reasons. First of all, it makes me harder to hit, because the enemies will have to constantly recalculate how much lead to give. And second of all, these guys are already at the extreme limit of my range, and if I were to go full speed for much longer, I wouldn't be able to keep shooting at them. Now, one thing I have noticed about the Donskoi is that, especially when you're running IFHE, and that Conqueror just shot over like 3 islands to hit me. Luckily he was firing high explosive. But with the Donskoi, especially with IFHE, you get these insane, like several thousand damage alpha strikes. But your fire chance is pretty unreliable. Coming from ships like the Atago, where you can set a fire under the right conditions, you can set a fire like once every 1 or 2 salvos, pretty much. With this one, you really struggle getting all those fires, at least in my experience. Now again, the Izumo is going to park behind an island, so I'm slowing down as well in order to be able to keep shooting at him. And in this case, he's actually a few hundred meters outside of my range, so every time I fire, I don't actually get spotted, which is nice, so I'm able to just continuously hit him and farm some cap reset points. Now, of course, being out of my range, I can't actually target him officially, so dispersion is a little crazy there. I'm gonna have trouble hitting him in the first place. I do manage to pick up a few more ribbons, and now that he is moving forward, I better start moving forward as well. Now, you might have noticed, if you were paying attention, that we do have a cyclone rolling in, and it's going to start taking effect in about 20 seconds, which really means it's going to start taking effect in about 1 or 2 minutes. The timer on that, well, let's just say there's a big disparity between when the cyclone arrives and when your view distance actually starts to decrease. And the Izumo is firing at me again, and luckily I managed to dodge all those shells. And again, I'm just sailing away and kiting. And this is pretty much the playstyle you want to try and adopt with the Donskoi. Now, if you've seen some other community contributors like Flamu, you know he always likes to talk about high impact and low impact ships. And, well, the Donskoi is sort of a medium impact. If you can get close and use your radar to take out destroyers, then you can have a very, very big influence on the outcome of the game. However, in these cases where you're running away from battleships, in this case, all 5 battleships being at sea, well, you can definitely do some damage, but you're not going to really stop their push. All you're going to do is weather them down a little bit on their way. So I've managed to recover a little bit from my mistake initially. I've done about 76,000 damage, mostly to enemy battleships. And, well, I mean, our team really should be pushing harder, but we have a bunch of ships on the 1-2 lines, not counting the Lexington. That's probably a good spot for him. But we have a Montana, a Kurfürst, and a Hindenburg, who aren't doing anything because they're so far out of the battle. And that's really going to have a negative impact on our ability to win this battle, because with the enemy battleship so distracted, our main fleet should have just pushed into B, captured it, and taken up defensive positions, and stopped the enemies from actually being able to counter. And I'm firing at this Kurfürst, and now the Cyclone is in effect. And now, here's the problem. How do you play a ship that's best played at 17 kilometers? How do you play that ship at 8 kilometers? Well, the answer is you don't. And I'll get into some of the reasoning behind that a little bit later. Now, just because the ships aren't spotted doesn't mean I'm not allowed to try and guess where they are, so I just keep shooting. However, I'm not getting any results at all. So I decide to hold my fire and just reposition closer to the center of the map. Now, with the Donskoi, you can afford to be a little further away from the action because you have that great range that you can put to good use. And my philosophy for cruisers is you can hide behind an island all game, and that's perfectly fine as long as you keep the guns firing and you're actually doing damage. A lot of people expect cruisers to push up and charge and take the brunt of the damage, which just doesn't make sense. That's the battleship's job. The cruiser's job is just to deal raw damage, which a lot of people don't seem to understand. Now, I know the Kurfürst is within 11.7 kilometers, so I pop my radar, because the radar does extend your viewing range, even during a cyclone, so I can see him even though he's outside of 8 kilometers. But that's not the only trick I'm going to use this game. As you can see, high explosive shells are doing quite a bit of damage to him. I did set a fire right off the bat, and I'm going to continue shooting at him, even though he's not actually spotted. Well, he is spotted, but I just can't see him. My teammates are spotting him, and I'm going to use the minimap to try and guess where he is and just continue shooting there. Now, I am parked behind an island just in case there's any surprises. I can easily arc shells over this little town here. Poor little town getting traumatized. But I am able to continue hitting the Kurfürst, even though I can't see him. At least for a little bit. At a certain point, there's there's just so much uncertainty and I can't actually continue hitting him anymore. But now our team has waited so long to actually move in and get involved into the battle that the enemy reinforcements have reached B, and we can't do anything about it. Our friendly Conqueror does burn down that Kurfürst that I'd been shooting at earlier, and now we have an enemy Conqueror. And I haven't spotted him since he was all the way back at C, but just using the minimap and just estimating where I think he is, I'm going to be able to start landing some hits on him. And look at that, 8 shell hits out of 12 guns. That's very good. I've managed to hit 100,000 damage, and I'm just happily spamming high explosive from a spot where none of these people can see me, which is great. Now the Conqueror is going up alongside this island, and I see the wreck of the Kurfürst starting to move, and I figure that that's probably because the Conqueror rammed into him, or rammed into the wreck. And that, of course, pretty much slows the Conqueror down to a dead stop. And now I know pretty much where to aim, and look at that. I'm landing quite a few hits, even though I can't see him. Now, as the wreck of the Kurfürst starts sinking, I know that the Conqueror will be able to start moving forward soon. And just to get a firmer lock on his position, I'm going to pop my radar soon and get some more precise shots. In the meantime, though, while I still know where he is, I can just happily keep firing. Look at that, another 7 hits. Pretty good. And there's a Conqueror. I saw him just repair a fire, but look at that heal. I can't possibly keep up with that. And 4,000 high explosive alpha is not bad, but I switched to armor piercing because I have, in the past, managed to do some crazy volleys, like 9 or 10,000 damage with the armor piercing on this ship, especially at close range. And for this ship, 8.5 kilometers is fairly close range, but the armor piercing disappoints. I get shatters, I get overpens, and nothing really to show for that, especially since the Conqueror is just going to run and heal that back up and then be ready for the next round. I'm going to continue to take a few blind shots because if I can set a fire, it is going to burn for quite a while on him. But unfortunately, looks like no luck. This Ismo on the enemy team is making quite a mistake in pushing up alone into A. Now our team is looking a little sparse. We have the Kurfürst here, Montana, all on his own. He's probably going to die. And the Lexington and myself. And look at that alpha volley, 7,000. That's because the Ismo's armor plating is just so weak that pretty much anywhere that you hit it with high explosive, it's going to do damage. And then another salvo with armor piercing. And I did launch some torpedoes out at him. And that's because, unlike all the other predecessors, this Soviet cruiser gets 8-kilometer torpedoes, as opposed to everyone else's 4 kilometers. The other exception to that is the Kutuzov, which gets 8 kilometers, but that's a premium, so we won't count it. And 6 hits. If that had been high explosive, that Khabarovsk would have been dead for sure. But I had armor piercing loaded for that Ismo, so unfortunately the Khabarovsk lives to see another day. The Cyclone is wearing off, so now I can see stuff that's beyond 8 kilometers. And we have the Conqueror pushing back in. And you'll see here that I'm going to sort of abuse the IFHE mechanic. The Conqueror has 32mm plating on its bow and stern, which means that if I hit those, then these 7-inch shells with IFHE are going to penetrate. And you can see that right there. 5,000 alpha damage, not too bad. Again, aiming straight for the bow. And at this point, because he's turning to show broadside, I switched to armor piercing, but look at that, another 5,000 damage very easily. And again, he's showing a side, so armor piercing, and a decent 5,500 damage, but it's not going to be enough to steal the kill. The Kurfürst finishes off the kill anyway. And at this point I've crossed 200,000 damage. But it doesn't look like it's going to be enough. Our team let the enemy team get so much of an advantage and hold all the caps for so long that, well, we have nothing to show for our initial slate numbers advantage. And in fact, the enemy team is now in the lead by 200 points. They're going to finish off that Kurfürst very soon. And, well, there's nothing really we can do about it. That Kurfürst is fighting off a Moskva, a Montana, and a Shimakaze. And you're going to see very soon that the Shimakaze, well, he's going to have some very good results against a big, slow battleship that doesn't maneuver very well. Our Lexington does send over a few dive bombers, and he's able to finish off the Khabarovsk, which is a very nice feat. I think our carrier this game was definitely doing his best, especially for being a Tier 8 carrier in a Tier 10 game. And I'm spotted by the Shimakaze. So I pop my radar because my detection range is just slightly bigger than my radar range. So if you get spotted in this ship, you can pop radar, and you're almost guaranteed to find what's spotting you. However, sadly, the Shimakaze maneuvers just in time to dodge everything that I fire, and then he gets behind an island, so no chance of hitting him there. And the enemy team is about to win. They have 973 points to our 707, and there's no way I'm going to be able to burn down a Montana in the 10 seconds it's going to take them to finish the game. I do try and just get as much damage as I can, and I actually end up earning my high caliber at the last second, crossing 216,000 damage, but that's going to be the game, unfortunately. That just goes to show how poor team play is really going to lead to some problems later down the road, especially neglecting the caps. Anyway, let's take a look at the post-battle results now. So in terms of personal score, not too bad. 350,000 credits earned, 5,700 XP, as well as the Dreadnought achievement, because I took a lot of damage but healed quite a bit of it back up. The Witherer, for dealing 60,000 fire or flooding damage, and the High Caliber for dealing 30% of the enemy's collective HP pool. And 30% turned out to be around 216,000 damage, only one kill, but quite a few different ribbons, also some defense ribbons over at sea initially, but other than that, just raw damage and fires. Looking now at the team score, I got close to 1,500 base XP, which is not bad. I mean, being on a defeat, you're going to get less base XP in general, and then the enemy Montana really carried his team as well, so props to him. Now the detailed report, you'll see that Izumo, that was shooting at me initially and chasing me across the whole map. I did quite a bit of damage to him, and then the other two battleships that I really punished, especially during the Cyclone, were the Conqueror and the Kurfürst, and that's going to be mostly just the high explosive Alpha and the fires. And the damage received, I did receive about 57,000 damage, but again, with the heal on this thing, I was able to recover some of that. Finally, credits and XP. Even with premium, I just barely made a profit. 134,000 credits, and about 9,000 commander XP. So, not too bad anyway. So that was my commentary on this Dmitri Donskoi game. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did like the video, then make sure you hit the like button before you leave. If you have any suggestions or criticisms or feedback or anything, leave those in the comments section down below. If you want to see more videos like this, then you can see my channel and hit the subscribe button. Anyway, I've been Ethan7878. Thank you very much for watching.